Welcome to Who Knew with Bruce Lubin from quickanddirtytips.com. I'm Jennifer Boudneau, the editor of the Who Knew books. Today we're talking about two of the most fun parts of holiday prep, I think. Holiday baking and gift wrapping. And we've got some tips on making gift wrapping cheaper and easier, and how to make sure your Christmas cookies come out perfect, even if you usually burn them in the oven. But first, if you've ever felt like you had to choose between getting new blinds or holding on to your life savings, those fears end now, thanks to SelectBlinds.com. Select Blinds won't gouge you like those big, greedy blind corporations. Just check out the over 170,000 five-star reviews on their site. Shop today at SelectBlinds.com. Mention you heard about them on a podcast at checkout and get sample swatches absolutely free. That's SelectBlinds.com. How's it going, Bruce?
It's great, Jen. How was Thanksgiving?
Thanksgiving was awesome. How was your Thanksgiving? I'm still thinking about all the food and maybe about my exercise regime that I should start. And I was able to put up a little Christmas tree, which I love. I have a ton of Christmas decorations, and I always I find a neighborhood man friend to help me carry the Christmas tree home, because in Brooklyn they just sort of sell them on the side of the street. Mm-hmm. I mean, people just show up selling trees. It's a beautiful thing. It smells wonderful. So I just snagged one of those and got it home. But I have a question for you that I'm pretty sure you can answer, because I have been working on Who Knew tips for a long time, and something tells me you have an answer for this one. There's pine needles everywhere. And I know I'm not the only one with this problem. And yes, I know in last time's podcast you said that we should all get a humidifier to keep our trees moist and make sure to put sugar in them to feed them. Yeah. But what do you do about those pine needles that are inevitably going to end up on the floor and are all over the place? How do you clean them up without... My problem is that if I try to just vacuum, it clogs the vacuum, and I'm afraid of messing up the motor.
Yeah. Well, you're not alone there, Jen. What you want to do is on your largest vacuum...
You're just here to help America, aren't you?
Here to help America. Take the largest vacuum attachment that you have. Yeah. That covers the biggest surface, and you want to cover it in pantyhose.
Oh, good old pantyhose.
All the pine needles will get stuck to the pantyhose, and then as it does, you just take them off, and you can keep going like that and put them in another receptacle, and you are done.
Very nice.
Floor is clean.
Then you can use the pantyhose to clean the outside of a candle.
You can do that.
If you're into life hack lightning rounds.
Perhaps there's a 7-Eleven down the block.
No, actually, I've heard of people using those pine needles as air freshener sachets. Yeah. Like they make them into a little sachet and break apart the needles and make them smell.
It works.
So it's not a bad idea. So
that candle tip, though, you should say that. You tease the audience with...
No, I thought I explained... I mean, pantyhose is great for cleaning candles because they get dusty on the outside. If you have nice candles, you can use pantyhose to clean. I mean, I assume that people have listened to every single one of our podcasts.
I am here for you, America. In case you didn't know how to clean those candles, I made sure she got to it there.
Do you know who else is here for America?
That would be Lisa? Is she here?
No, yes, she is. But before Lisa, we have to hear from SelectBlinds.com, who's also here for America. You don't have to choose between saving money and updating your window treatments anymore. SelectBlinds.com has got you covered. And their loyal customers seem to agree. Just check out the more than 170,000 five-star reviews on their site. At SelectBlinds.com, you can choose from a selection of high-quality custom blinds, shades, and drapes. It's the simple and smart way to get blinds. Select Blinds makes it easy to do it yourself without going it alone. Measure, choose, and install your new window coverings with the support of their online specialists. If you can hang a picture, you can hang your own blinds. They've served over 1 million happy customers. Why not be one of them? Shop today at SelectBlinds.com. Mention you heard about them on a podcast at checkout and get sample swatches of the room darkening blinds or shades of your choice. Absolutely free. That's SelectBlinds.com. I love Select Blinds.
So do I. They're great.
We have another great tip today from thepennyhoarder.com.
Is Lisa here?
Yes, Lisa Rowan, as you know. She's got another good tip for us. Here it is.
Hi, I'm Lisa Rowan from The Penny Hoarder, here with today's money hack. With Christmas only a few weeks away, you're probably stressed out about what presents to buy your family and dreading how much money you're going to spend on those presents. I'm here to tell you a few ways you can avoid spending hundreds of dollars on presents and help you escape the consumerism treadmill. There's nothing better than a gift made with love, and the holidays are the perfect time to create homemade gifts for all the special people in your life, and you don't even have to be great with scissors. You could collect flower seeds, put them in pretty envelopes, and include planting instructions. You could also make a fun family video with a free app you can download on your phone. Do you have some foolproof dinner recipes that everyone always loves? Write them up onto recipe cards or in cute dollar store notebooks. Another great idea is to make a digital family cookbook. Put all your family members' signature recipes in it, and you'll be surprised to find out how rich and generous the holidays can be without draining your wallet. For more holiday money hacks, visit thepennyhoarder.com.
Those are some great tips, and they wrap right into what we're talking about, pun intended, which is wrapping paper.
That's right, and frugal wrapping paper.
Yeah.
All right, so here's my first tip. So when you're buying wrapping paper, you know it can cost sometimes like $10 a roll.
Yeah, it gets expensive.
The place to go is the craft store, because you can get like these giant 200-foot rolls.
Like Michael's, that kind of? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And they're always like a solid color, but you can get a huge roll for like $7.
Yeah, like a 200-foot roll or whatever it is.
So that's what I would do. I would absolutely go there. And if you want to dress it up, I mean, you have ways of dressing up your wrapping, your gifts.
Yeah, no one ever said, oh, this wrapping paper is too basic or what have you.
That's right.
One thing that I've even used in the past, besides pages from last year's calendar, which is especially awesome if your cat, like mine was in the Cats and Sweaters 2016 calendar. God rest his soul.
Plug.
I know. I have to mention being a cat lady in pretty much every podcast. It's part of my appeal. This is how I get the men. But you can use pages from last year's calendar, or if you have kids, have them draw on some printer paper.
Yep.
Or you can get kind of imaginative. One that I like is copying sheet music. So if you're giving presents to someone who's a musician, you can black and white copy. Use if your company's printer isn't a highly guarded, secret. You can do some copying of sheet music or words from a book.
You know what I've used?
What?
Since I now have a smartphone and I never ever use an old map, like a real map, I use old maps.
Oh, you just take the map right out of the book.
Just old maps that I have. Because I never use them. I do everything on my phone, right?
Yeah. When are you going to bring a whole map of New Jersey with you? That's a good idea. Another good one is that if you have paper napkins that are sort of too good to use, I know you probably have a lot of those, Bruce.
Oh, yeah.
I know you probably store your pretty napkins, but I happen to have some pretty napkins. And if you have some with like poinsettias or some sort of nice Christmas theme and you have been sort of saving them, they're actually really good for wrapping small presents, especially like little bundles of candy or something.
Terrific.
It's a good idea. What other wrapping hacks do you have?
Well, I will tell you about shipping presents. So if you get all your presents and you're going to go home and you bring a suitcase on, you're going to pay either $15 or $25, sometimes even $50 for like a second bag on your flight home.
The checked baggage.
Yep, but you can send up to 70 pounds of gifts for as little as $14.
Wow.
So you always want to send everything home. Plus, that's an incentive to not wait till the last minute to shop too, knowing you have to send it home beforehand. But that's what I would do.
Yeah, and if you're sending books, DVDs, or CDs, not that many people buy CDs anymore, but those three things are considered what's called media mail.
Media mail, that's right.
Yeah, and you can get a cheaper postal rate. So if you're buying a book for someone and sending it for Christmas, go to the post office and ask them for the media mail rate. It's about half the price of regular first class mail.
So let me give you some more like crazy wrapping tips that are going to save you money. So if you have like big old bows from last year that you don't throw out, right? If they're all wrinkled and smashed, all you want to do is wait for it, put them in the dryer on low heat with a little damp cloth for a couple of minutes, and that will get rid of all the
And then
wrinkles.
No one will know that you used your bows from last year.
No, I have another one that's kind of like, well, you're not a crazy cat lady, but this is kind of like a little bit of a little quirky tip here. If you're using old, if you have a tissue paper from last year and you want to use it again, all you have to do is iron it. So somebody wrote in and said, this is what they do. And I actually tried it. And it's like brand new. It takes about a second to do. You can reuse it.
I think probably I'm too anal to iron tissue paper, but I could see that. Like if you had one piece of tissue paper left and you had to put it in a bag or something.
Wait, are you judging me?
You just do it on the lowest setting and
yes, at the low, exactly right, on the lowest setting. So what do you think of that tip? Would you do it?
I think that's...
Are you backing away slowly from me right now?
Kind of. I have a good one for wrapping if your gifts have stickers on them.
Oh, let's hear it.
you can get the sticker off with a hairdryer.
Yeah.
You just the hairdryer heats up the adhesive. So if you have a pesky label that's just not coming off, just run a hairdryer on it and it heats up.
Well, speaking of labels, so once you get your gift, if you've got like a price tag on it that you can't get off, what you want to use is a little bit of hand sanitizer.
Oh, instead of a hairdryer.
Yep, it de-sticks the adhesive and any sort of sticker glue. So just put it on a spot, let it sit for a couple of minutes, and then use a coin or something and rub it off, and off you go.
That's a great one. Mm-hmm. Who needs an outlet?
Are we going to talk about baking now?
We are. Okay, so how much cookie baking do you do in the...
Well, I do none, but Jeannie doesn't.
You know, when I was growing up, I had a grandmother who lived in Iowa. My dad is from Iowa, and she made so many holiday cookies every year. They had a sun porch in Iowa, but it was really cold over the winter. So she would make, I would say 20 batches of cookies or more, at least 20. And she would keep them in the sun porch to keep them cold. And if you're a little girl pretending to be asleep before Christmas, let me just tell you.
Get in there.
You just go out in the middle of the night, and it is a cookie smorgasbord out there with everyone sleep. It was just like, all the cookies. So that's what I think of when I think of, God rest her soul, that's what I always think of. When I think of cookies is being out in my grandmother's sun porch, just gorging myself.
Jeannie does all the baking. I normally just like iron the...
you iron the tissue paper and leave it at
paper. That. Yeah. Well, let's talk about baking a lot of batches of cookies. Okay, let's talk about that.
Yeah, because that's what the holidays are all about. If you're my grandmother making a majillion cookies, what do you do?
So here's what you want to do with your cookie sheets. You want to make sure that, you cool the sheets down for at least 2 to 3 minutes between putting them back in the oven.
Oh, why is that?
So you take them out. You want to take them off. And by the way, if they get stuck to the bottom of a cookie sheet, a little dental floss.
Always the dental floss.
Always dental floss. But what you want to do is not use too hot a surface. So make sure that it's
so you let them cool down.
Yeah, that way they won't burn. Also, if you've got like really thin baking sheets and you have more than one, just use them 2 at a time because they could be burning because it's just too thin.
Is that like those double panel baking sheets? It's basically like a DIY.
Yep. And the other thing, what you want to do is, it's like cooking scrambled eggs. Like you always want to get them off the heat before they're done because they're still going to cook a little bit. With cookies, it's the same way. So always take them out like a minute or so before you think they really would be done. Let them sit in the hot pan. That'll cool the pan. Get them off, maybe with dental floss. And now the pan is cool again. You can now, the sheet is cool again. You can now use it on your next batch of cookies.
Very good.
How about that?
That's pretty good. Now I have a total setup for you.
Let's hear it.
What do you do if you have lumpy brown sugar?
Oh, come on, Jen. Give me something more difficult than that. Well, first of all, everyone has a lumpy brown sugar because there's moisture that gets into the brown sugar. So what you want to do when you store it is put some like saltine crackers with the brown sugar, and that will keep it lump-free.
I know that's your preferred method because I was over at your house once, and Jeannie opened the freezer and went, "We have enough stuff in the freezer to be keeping brown sugar in here." Because that's the other tip is that you can keep your brown sugar in the freezer.
You can indeed.
Unless you have too many things in your freezer like Bruce and Jeannie, in which case you have to go for the saltines.
But if it gets to be a giant lump, you just put it in like a ball of aluminum foil and bake it at 350 in an oven for about 5 minutes.
Oh, so it's not like it's reversible.
It's totally reversible. You can do that, or you can put it in a microwave with like a piece of white bread or half an apple, cover it, and heat it for like 15 or 20 seconds and let it stand for a few minutes. What you're really trying to do is just add moisture back into it.
Oh,
so those are two good ways to sort of reconstitute the brown sugar. But if you do use your saltine or your freezer, you will not have this problem.
Oh,
so there
that
you go.
Reminds me of another sugar tip from my friend Lindsay that appeared in one of our books because we always put reader tips in our books.
Yes, we do.
So if you have forgotten to soften your butter beforehand, if this has ever happened to you, you know what happens is that then you put the butter in the microwave, but then it melts too much, and then you have melted butter, and then that's not the right consistency, and you're like, why didn't I take the butter out of the microwave? Or out of the refrigerator. The thing to do is instead of trying to heat up the butter, heat up the sugar. So put the sugar in the microwave for about 20 to 30 seconds and then stir it and then see how it is. And once the sugar gets warm, then mix it with the butter. And that will basically soften your butter with you and for you, and you don't have to worry about the trial and error of trying to heat the butter instead of the sugar.
Thank Lindsay for that one. That's a great tip.
I always do.
Speaking of the microwave, if you're chopping chocolate, if it's cold, you get all these shards as you chop it. But if
then they get all over the cutting board
That's
and
right.
then basically
And that's a
never come
mess.
off. Yeah.
But what you want to do is if you take your chocolate and microwave it for like not even a minute, just get it slightly softened. And then when you cut it, it won't splinter as much. So it's going to be way cleaner.
That's a great one. What about anything else for adding stuff into cookies?
Yes. So if you're using walnuts or any sort of nuts in a blender, just throw a little sugar in it, and that'll keep them from, when you chop them, from sticking together. So, or you can also put them all in a sealed plastic bag and then just use a rolling pin over them. So that's a great way to break up nuts, or graham crackers if you're making, a pie crust or something like that, or vanilla wafers.
Yeah, especially because I just buy whatever nuts are on sale, and sometimes they're not the small pieces I need, so that's a great one.
Your blender and a little bit of sugar, Jen.
Sounds good to me. So what about when the cookies are done? There are two different kinds of cookies in this world. Chewy cookies and crispy cookies. And it seems like whatever type of cookies you make, they always go from one or the other. If you want chewy cookies, they end up crispy. If you want crispy cookies, they end up chewy. So tell us what we need to do.
Isn't that a problem we all have?
Life's rough.
I've got you covered here, Jen. So if you want to keep your cookies crisp, what you're going to do is when you put them in a container, use some crumpled up tissue paper. Presumably the tissue paper you haven't ironed.
Yes.
So leave that, put it at the bottom of the container, fill the cookies, and close the lid, and they will stay nice and crisp. If you want them to be really sort of chewy and soft, what you want to do is add either half an apple or a piece of white bread to the cookie jar. That'll give moisture to the cookies and keep them soft for like days.
Perfect.
Yep. So how about that?
I love it. And if you're going to give cookies as presents, make sure to put them in plastic wrap too, because if you put them in a cardboard box or whatever, then they'll get stale.
Yeah, they really need to be airtight, for
That's
sure.
something to remember about your cookies.
There are plenty more baking tips.
How many cookies are too many cookies to eat while wrapping gifts? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't think we've ever reached that number yet. So
So it's just as many as I want. That's a tip I like. So, do you know what time it is now that we've talked wrapping and cookies and cookie wrapping?
Would it be lightning round time?
It would be lightning round time.
Well, let's get to it then.
So for those that are new to the podcast, what we do is we have at the end each time a life hack lightning round where Jeannie gives Bruce a name of a household object in an envelope, and then we name as many life hacks as we can about that object, one after another. So what's today's object?
I just opened up the envelope. It is salt.
Salt.
Simple salt. So that's first of all, something everyone has. And there's plenty of things you can use salt for to make your life easier.
I'll go first.
Go first. Let's hear it.
So this is one, I guess it's sort of embarrassing, but we all have dandruff, or a lot of people have dandruff. And one thing you can do really easily to get rid of the dandruff, besides using that just like really freaking disgusting tar shampoo and various stuff, is use salt. And what you do is, it's with dry hair, go over the sink and rub it into your scalp. And it basically gets rid of all of the dandruff causing stuff on your scalp that's causing all the dandruff, using a little bit of friction. So you just rub it all into your scalp for, I would say, maybe about 5 minutes, and then just wash your hair as usual. And that is really sort of all you need, instead of worrying about, this shampoo and that shampoo, and it's been, now my hair is too dry, and now it's too, so I love that tip for the dandruff.
I have one
I'm not ashamed.
Helpful as well, and that is if you've ever suffered from insomnia. And if you don't want to take any sort of...
This tip is amazing.
It's amazing.
And we've actually done research on this one, and it's from doctors.
This is like an old-fashioned tip that my grandfather knew. And what you want to do is, you want to put a little bit of salt on the back of your tongue, believe it or not. And then just, let it sort of dissolve on your tongue.
With a glass, it's salt and a half a glass of water or something.
And then you take a little bit of water and let it dissolve. And there's the principles of the salt will help you sleep. And it's crazy, and it works. So,
I love that one.
I might just do it right now, Jeff.
Salt, in addition to getting dandruff, is also good for freshening rugs. So if you have a rug that's kind of looking kind of blah, make a very strong saltwater solution. Basically add water to salt until it's actually water and not a weird salty paste. And then when you have that very salty water, Get another rag, get a rag or a sponge or something, and dip it into the salt water, and then put it onto the rug and just scrub. And if you do that, the salt, I don't know what the deal is, but I think the salt brightens the dye or something. But you can really tell the difference, and just leave it out to dry after you do it.
Another great use for salt is if you have a drinks you want to cool down really quickly, whether it's beer or perhaps it's soda or something else. What you want to do is just get a cooler and put some ice and water, and then throw some salt in it. And what happens, it'll lower the temperature of the water to sort of below freezing. It's like if you ever stuck your hand in a really, really cold lake and it's below 32 degrees, it's from salt.
Yeah.
So what you do is just throw some salt in there, layer it, water, salt, ice, and your drinks will be cool in a matter of minutes as opposed to, an hour or so.
That's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
I only have one in my head right now, so this might be my last one.
Let's hear it.
You can use salt for stains. It's really good for soaking stuff up right immediately. So, like, if you're cooking and you get something on your shirt or whatever, immediately put salt on it, and the salt will start sucking it up. Or, like, if you get something on if you dump, red wine on the rug, grab your salt and pour the salt right onto that stain, and the salt absorbs the stain faster than fabric. As long as you work fast enough, it will absorb all the liquid before the fabric
does. Well, it's great because if you spill a glass of wine on yourself while you're out at a restaurant or something, there you go. There's salt on the table.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You can use that too.
Yep. That is such a great tip. I think we should just declare you the winner. Because mine feels sort of ordinary. The ones I still have in my mind next to that. That's
you would rather end on the
I would rather end on that
and
because that's
declare me
really
the winner.
helpful.
But what if people are thinking now, like, what about that last salt tip? What could it have been? Now I kind of want to know what it was. What was it?
All right, so you know what? So we were talking about baking cookies, right? Yeah. And one of the things I forgot to say is that cookie dough, if you get it on your counter and it's a mess to clean up, just put a little salt on your counter. And then sort of wipe the cookie dough into that.
Oh, that's a great tip. What are you talking about?
It is
and it's so like on point thematically.
It really is.
I think that's a better one to end on.
Thank you.
Gosh, this is 2 life hack lightning rounds in a row that you've won, and I know I shouldn't feel bad because you're the master, but I've I'm like a trivia geek, so this hurts.
There's always time to make that up. Don't worry about that.
Please, God, just let me work for Who Knew Tips for another 7 years. That's all I want out of life. That's it for today's show. Thanks for listening. And as always, thanks to Quick and Dirty Tips for producing this podcast and making it all possible. Bruce and Jeannie are posting every day at quickanddirtytips.com/who knew. And you can find all the tips from this podcast and much more there. And while you're online, please write us a review on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. Since we're a new podcast, it really helps us find an audience and make sure we can keep it going, which is all we want. Right, Bruce?
You bet, Jen.
And, of course, you can always find us by searching Who Knew Tips on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, or Google. Tune in next time when we talk about Christmas aftermath. And have a great holiday.
Thanks, everyone.